Today's episode of Off the Timeline is titled What If Miami and Michigan Vanished Before the 1989 Season? In 1989, Miami was supposed to win a national championship. Michigan, Virginia, and Michigan State were supposed to have very strong seasons. Purdue was supposed to exist. Instead, these programs vanish. Gone. No probation, no sanctions, no explanation. And over the next 10 years, college football has a lot more drama because of it. Colorado becomes a dynasty. Florida State inherits Miami's recruiting empire. Tennessee turns into the sport's angriest fan base. Nebraska launches a playoff revolution. Arizona State wins a national championship. And by the end of the decade, the BCS never happens. This is the alternate history of the greatest power vacuum college football's ever seen. But first, let's set the table for the great talent draft. The first consequence isn't a championship, it's a feeding frenzy. When five programs disappear, their players scatter across the country. For example, Colorado lands Desmond Howard. Notre Dame lands Elvis Grbac. Tennessee lands Herman Moore. Meanwhile, Florida State inherits huge portions of Miami's recruiting pipeline. South Florida no longer belongs to Miami, it belongs to Florida State. And before the season even starts, the balance of power has changed. And that sets the table for 1989, the title that breaks college football. Without Miami, there is no defending champion. The race is wide open. Notre Dame, Colorado, Florida State, Nebraska, and Tennessee rise. The Bulls should match the best teams, but it's 1989, so they protect tradition instead. Notre Dame, Colorado, and Florida State win their bowl games. And the final polls create chaos. The AP names Notre Dame champions. The coaches poll names Colorado. Florida State names themselves champions. Three teams claiming championships. One season, zero agreement. Fans spend the entire offseason asking the same question. Why don't the best teams actually play each other? And that sets the table for 1990 and Colorado raising the stakes. Nobody's angrier than Colorado. The Buffaloes believe they won the championship in 1989. Now they have Desmond Howard, momentum, and a mission. Every week, Colorado reminds voters they are deprived of a national championship. Every week, Colorado reminds fans of the same thing. They become the face of anti-establishment college football, and this time they leave zero doubt. Colorado storms through the season, national championship undisputed, and the first dynasty of the vanishing universe is born. And that sets the table for 1991, where Florida State takes the throne. Miami's disappearance continues reshaping the sport. South Florida talent keeps flowing to Tallahassee. The Seminoles become loaded, faster, and deeper. Bobby Bowden finally gets the championship that always seemed one step away. And suddenly, a new power has emerged. Not Miami, but Florida State. The Seminoles are now kings of the South. And that sets the table for 1992, where Tennessee fires back. They've spent the last 3 years watching everyone else celebrate Colorado, Florida State, and Notre Dame, and they've decided they've had enough. They embrace an us against the world mentality. The fan base becomes obsessed with reform. The players become obsessed with respect. The recruits buy in. Tennessee wins the 1992 national title, but that doesn't calm them down. It empowers them because now Tennessee wants more than championships. They want change. And that sets the table for 1993. The traditionalists strike back. The old guard refuses to disappear. Notre Dame returns to the top. Traditionalists celebrate. Reformers groan. The sport is no longer divided by conferences. It's divided by philosophy. Colorado, Nebraska, Tennessee, Florida State versus the establishment. And everyone knows the collision is coming. And that sets the table for 1994, the Grievance Bowl. Then comes the game that defines the decade, Nebraska versus Tennessee. The media immediately gives it a nickname, the Grievance Bowl. Nebraska believes the system has denied them, as does Tennessee. One team gets validation. One team gets another reason to be furious. Nebraska wins. Tom Osborne gets his championship. But the real consequence comes afterward. Nebraska becomes the public face of playoff reform. The Cornhuskers don't celebrate quietly. They ask a dangerous question. If the system is fair, why did it take so long? And that sets the table for 1995, the Great Betrayal. The reform movement appears unstoppable. Then Florida State defects. The Seminoles realize they can thrive under the current system. They stop wanting change. They stop standing with Nebraska, and they stop standing with Tennessee. And they win a national championship. The coalition fractures, and the drama builds up. And that sets the table for 1996, the Western Alliance strikes. Colorado has spent years preaching a Western football revolution. Now it finally pays off. Recruiting improves throughout the region. National respect increases. And Arizona State shocks the sport and win the national championship. Suddenly, Colorado isn't just a program, it's a movement, and the old powers are terrified. And that sets the table for 1997, the season that breaks everything. This is the year college football finally reaches its limit. Nebraska, Florida State, and Tennessee all finish unbeaten. One broken system which the Bulls refuse to adapt to. Florida State and Nebraska win their bowl games, and the nightmare begins as they're both 13 and 0. No head to head, no title game, no solution. The AP poll crowns Florida State. The coaches poll crowns Nebraska. Another split title. 8 years after 1989, the sport learned absolutely nothing. The backlash is immediate. Fans and media are furious. University presidents are as well. And an emergency summit is announced. And that sets the table for 1998, Tennessee's revenge. No fan base has suffered more frustration, carried more resentment, or spent longer demanding change. Then Tennessee finally gets another moment in the sun and wins the national championship. The celebration becomes legendary. Goalposts disappear. Fans flood the streets. For Tennessee supporters, this isn't just a title, it's years of frustration finally paying off. And that sets the table for 1999, the last champion of the old era. The final season before reform arrives. Tennessee wins again. They're now back-to-back national championships. The Volunteers enter the summit stronger than anyone. The Bulls need Tennessee. TV needs Tennessee, as does college football. And for the first time, reformers have all the leverage. And that sets the table for the summit. 10 years after the disappearance, the sport reaches a crossroads. Nebraska wants a playoff. Tennessee wants guarantees. Colorado wants structural reform. Florida State wants influence. Notre Dame wants tradition. The Bulls want survival. Nobody gets everything they want. Everybody gets something. The result? The National Championship Series, starting in 2000. 4 teams, 2 semifinals, 1 championship game. The BCS never exists. The College Football Playoff never exists because college football solved its largest problem a decade early. And now a quick recap of the champions of the vanishing universe. 1989, Notre Dame, Colorado, and Florida State all claim the title. 1990 was Colorado, 91 was Florida State, 92 is Tennessee, 93 Notre Dame, 94 Nebraska, 95 Florida State, 96 Arizona State, 97 was a split controversy between Nebraska and Florida State, and then Tennessee rounds up the decade with back-to-back titles in 98 and 99. And in the end, the biggest surprise isn't who won, it's who disappeared. Because removing Miami, Michigan, Michigan State, Virginia, and Purdue didn't create one new champion. It created new dynasties, new rivalries, and more importantly, new grievances. A Western football playoff revolution, a playoff revolution, and ultimately a completely different future for college football. All because 5 teams never took the field. And if you enjoyed this college football alternate history deep dive, hit like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next timeline.